Welcome to another episode of Live with Laura. I'm your host, Laura Hediger, and as we sit here in real time, it is the day after Memorial Day. And for millions of kids and families across the country, it's the first official day of summer break. Man, kids are excited about that. And summer is supposed to be fun, outside, maybe going to the swimming pool, staying up a little late, just getting out of that typical routine. And while that's awesome for so many kids, for a lot of parents, step-parents, grandparents, and definitely educators, they worry about something called the summer slide. And I'm not talking about the slides at the water park. Specifically, we are talking about the summer learning slide, where there's a lot of learning lost during the summer months. But luckily, here in St. Louis, there are so many opportunities and different camps kiddos can go to where they are learning all new things. So once they go back to school in the fall, they are ready to go. And someone who knows that all too well is our guest for today's episode. Very happy to be joined by Abby Barrow. She is the Senior Programs Manager at the Clark Fox Family Foundation. Abby, happy summer.
Happy summer. We made it.
We did. And man, for a lot of families, especially the month of May, they're like, this is the craziest month ever.
I heard it called Maycember this year because the events pile up every day. It seems like there's something new, some new commitment, some new event to go to, and it's overwhelming for sure.
It really is. And I've talked to so many different parents who are like, we're just trying to make it to summer. And once they hit now, the day after Memorial Day, they can breathe, but then they're like, what are we going to do for the next few months?
What now?
Yes. And that is where different organizations like the Clark Fox Family Foundation comes in. What does your organization do?
Yeah, so the Clark Fox Family Foundation, we are here to assist the St. Louis community. So we do that through a variety of ways. I work on an educational initiative called Blueprint 4. And the goal of Blueprint 4 is to make summer, after school, and college prep programs accessible for all youth in the St. Louis area. The foundation also works on a variety of other things. Our founder is Miss Maxine Clark, who founded Build-A-Bear Workshop here in the community, and her husband, Mr. Bob Clark, who's a philanthropist and entrepreneur as well. So it really is a community organization by the community for the community, looking to just meet the needs and pivot to what we can do to take action.
And the needs are so great, especially for working parents. It is really, really hard to find dependable care and things you're comfortable sending your kids to.
Absolutely.
Let's dive in a little bit more specifically about Blueprint 4, because on Great Day St. Louis, we've been so blessed to highlight this program. It feels like for a decade. So when did Blueprint 4 come about, and how has that evolved over the years?
Yeah, it probably has been literally a decade because the program started in 2015. So a lot has changed in the community since that time, but what has remained constant is that families are overwhelmed by the planning process, by trying to find enriching, safe, fun, affordable activities for their kids to do whenever they're not in school. And so the program really evolved because, again, our founder, Miss Maxine Clark, was out in the community speaking to youth, and they didn't have anything to do during the summer. They were, walking around, hanging out. And again, like you said, that can be great. That can also be a little bit dangerous, especially for, some of our teens and our older kids. So she said, there's all these amazing programs in the community. How do we help parents and families connect to them? How do we help them find out about them and bridge that information gap? And so that's where we founded the Blueprint 4 database. It's a one-stop shop. Families can log on and find after-school programs, summer camps, college prep programs, all the way from ages 3 through 18. And it's really designed to make it a little bit easier for families so that they're not spending hours Googling and calling and researching all over town. They can go to one website and then filter down the programs in the community to find ones that are a good fit for their family.
And let's dive into the exact website, because as people are listening to this right now, they'll be like, okay, I want to check it out.
Absolutely. It is blueprint4, the number 4.com.
Blueprint4.com. And as it's evolved since 2015, from what I remember, when you started coming on Great Day, wasn't it Blueprint 4 Summer?
It was. It was Blueprint for Summer originally. And then we expanded because families were saying, well, what about spring break? What about winter break? What about those after school times when I'm still working and the kids need care? And so we really, again, kind of pivoted to meet the need because it's not just about summer anymore. Obviously, that's the focus right now in this moment, but it goes far beyond that to all of these out of school times when kids need care and enrichment.
We are going to talk about so many of the different camp opportunities. And as we do that, I'd like for our listeners to learn a little bit more about you, because it's not like you grew up somewhere else and you just came here for a job. You are from this area.
Absolutely. Born and raised in St. Louis, yes.
And the proud daughter of an educator.
Yes, that's right. 2 educators, in fact. So my mom was an elementary teacher, and my dad is a school psychologist. So it runs in the family, for sure, working with youth development.
I knew I would like you, but now I like you even more because we have that in common. My mom was an elementary school special education teacher. My sister is a school psychologist.
Amazing.
And growing up in an educator family, at the time, I didn't realize how blessed I was to have a working parent who was technically off during the summer. And my mom did a really good job of coming up with activities for my sister and me. And I'm guessing your parents did the same for you.
It was a really similar experience. Yeah. So, we didn't have that childcare crunch that so many families worry about because our moms, were able to be there and provide that guidance and support. So I feel so blessed for that because I'm sure you do too. I have so many great memories with my mom during the summer, spending those days together. And, then in August, we'd go back to her classroom and I'd help her set up her classroom for the new year and just got to be kind of along for the ride for all of those fun things.
I was so similar. And I even think back to all the different things that my mom would do in August to set up the class and the different themes. And now that I am in a job, and my husband too, that is 12 months out of the year, already I have a lot of stress and anxiety and fear about what I am going to do with my 2 little ones when they are of school age. And I think a lot of other parents are feeling that right now. So let's ease some people's mind in that there is still time to register for camps, correct?
There is still time. Definitely the clock is ticking, and I always encourage folks to, do it as soon as possible, but we recognize that life gets in the way. Everyone is busy, everyone has full plates, and so I don't want folks to panic or give up at this juncture because there are still programs that have availability and you could sign up and absolutely get your kid an amazing experience still.
When do most summer camps begin?
Most begin, I would say, next week.
That's what I thought.
There are a few that start this week because they know that a lot of folks are out of school already, but most begin June 1st this year.
And for the camps that Blueprint 4 helps people find, are they usually 5 days a week? Are they 3 days a week? Let's talk about logistics.
Absolutely. And that's one of the most important pieces. As you said, especially if you're a working parent, if you have other things going on, you need to know what hours you need to cover from camp. And I think that that's a common issue that families face. There are some camps that run 5 days a week, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and can cover you the entire summer. So I'm thinking about, Boys and Girls Clubs or the YMCA are examples of that, places where you send your kid the whole summer, all day, they are covered, they're rotating through activities and all of those good things. There's also a lot of half-day options. So maybe, it's a 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Maybe you sign up also for a 1, p.m. to 4 p.m. and then you're covered the whole day. But especially for littler ones, maybe we're not quite ready for a whole day. So especially with a lot of our pre-K camps or maybe kind of that first summer camp experience, we see some of those kind of shorter half day or just a few hours here and there to provide some structure and guidance, but maybe we're not ready to be somewhere, away from home all day, all summer long. So it varies. I think that there's a good option for everyone, no matter what your needs or scheduling is looking like. We really encourage folks to, again, go onto blueprint4.com and you can search by time of programs as well. So if you're looking for those morning programs, if you're looking for afternoon or all day, or again, even an overnight experience where your kid is having that adventure away and they are there, you can find all of those on the website, and there's amazing programs for everyone.
I'm glad one of the first that you brought up is the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater St. Louis. We are so lucky to have worked with Dr. Flint Fowler for years, and now Brandon, who has taken over for him as the president and CEO. And Brandon was just here in studio a couple weeks ago and was talking about how it was the summer camp experience at the Boys and Girls Club of Greater St. Louis for him that kind of set his life on the trajectory that it went, eventually playing in the NFL and then coming back and taking over an organization that made such an impact. And I think that's so cool because when you give kids an opportunity, who knows where it's going to go.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned that too. Boys and Girls Clubs is close to my heart. I started my career there. And that's really why I discovered this work and why I fell in love with this work, is because I saw the way that kids could transform when they come into programming. Maybe they're a little shy, maybe they're a little uneasy, maybe they're, struggling in school in whatever respect it may be. And by the end of the summer, they are just living. They are so happy. They found passions, they found friends, they found mentors. They're staying active and healthy, and you just see the transformation that happens in these programs. And that's really why I do the work that I do, and why I think so many of us care about these organizations, because we see the deep impact it has on our young people.
Especially when you get kids out of their normal routine. I think any kid can sometimes, when they're in school, always be around the same people, always around the same group. And sometimes that's not always fun.
Right.
Sometimes there's friction there. We've all been kids. So going to a summer camp where you get a fresh start and meet so many kiddos that don't go to your school, and you make those different friends, and you mentioned the mentor aspect, that's huge.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think it's different than the school year, right? There is more space and time for these relationships and connections to build. So kids are getting these other adult figures in their life who care about them, who invest in them, who want to show them cool things they can learn and do and become in their life. And I think that that's a really powerful experience because it's a little bit more of a relaxed environment than a teacher. There's usually not grades on the line or conferences or kind of those, tangible performance metrics. It's more, how do I invest in you and care about you and really give you these opportunities to thrive and grow. So it's we talk about academics a lot, we talk about those things, but it's also just the development of these young people, giving them opportunities to thrive and grow and become leaders in a lot of ways. It's a really beautiful thing to witness.
And not just sit at a desk like they do in school all day.
That's right, because I think a lot of kids, struggle in school. It's a lot. And so summer camp really gives the opportunity to have those brain breaks, to have those activity breaks, to really explore things that they're passionate about and can dig into. Usually they're not going to be, forced to sit through a test or, some boring lecture. It's going to be learning, but in a fun way. And that's, as educators, that's how we try to sneak in some fun and learning by kind of, doing a little trick and sneaking in that enrichment piece.
You are such a positive person. You have the biggest smile on your face. You can tell you love what you do. And you loved a specific summer camp growing up. Will you tell me about that experience and how it has continued to impact you as an adult?
Absolutely. Like we said, I spent a lot of time with my mom. I didn't always go to summer camp because we didn't have that childcare issue. But when I was, 8 years old, I was in Girl Scouts and went to a Girl Scout summer camp adventure where we stayed in a cabin and got to have our own horse for the week. So our job was caring for the horse, mucking out the stalls, giving the baths, doing all of those things, doing the team building and bonding with the girls in our cabin, and then having this big, long 4-hour horseback ride that was kind of the culmination of this experience. And it was incredible for me. I think I was a shy kid. I could be a little bookish. I could be a little bit, apprehensive to new environments. And it forced me out of my comfort zone immediately. I met so many friends. I deepened some friendships that I had. And I was able to be around animals and nature, which I think is the most healing, calming, thing that we can do for our young people. So I look back on that experience with so much fondness and so much gratitude, really, that my parents were able to make that happen, that Girl Scouts was able to afford that. And that, again, kind of really colors my passion for helping other kids get those same experiences, because I know firsthand what it's like when you have those and can really see how it helps you grow as a human.
And that was only a few days and a few nights of 1 year of your childhood. And it still continues to shape you. And I just get so excited thinking that there are other kiddos in our area that's going to have an experience like that too this summer.
Absolutely. I mean, I know it sounds dramatic, but these experiences really are life-changing for young people. I talk to so many families whose kids are struggling in a variety of different ways. I mean, it is a tough time just in the world. Things are overwhelming. And for young people, there's social media, there's all of these things that I did not have to contend with as a young person. And for them to get an escape, to be around people that care about them, and to have fun and be safe is just a really transformative thing. So I hear all the time from families who said, after summer camp, my kid was a completely different kid. They went to school, their teachers noticed how well they were doing, their teachers noticed that they were a little bit more regulated, a little bit calmer, a little bit happier. And so, it is just a few short days or a week sometimes. Sometimes it is the whole summer, but the impact is lasting. And that's really, why we encourage families so much to take every opportunity possible and try to make this happen for your kids and family.
So this is where we turn it to all of you, our listeners and our viewers, because there is still time to register your kiddo for a summer camp this year. And blueprint4.com is really your blueprint for that. All you have to do is go to blueprint4.com. When we come back after this commercial break, Abby is going to walk us through even more of the opportunities that are right here in the St. Louis area and how you can filter through it. So we would encourage you to share this episode for any parents, step-parents, grandparents who are thinking, okay, I have a schedule for my child for this month, but man, in July, I could really use some help. There are still opportunities. So again, blueprint4.com, much more with Abby Barrow coming up right after this commercial break on Live with Laura. Welcome back to Live with Laura. I'm your host, Laura Hediger, sitting across from Abby Barrow, the Senior Program Manager at the Clark Fox Family Foundation. And Abby, you have now been there for 3 years.
Yes.
I'm sure you've learned a lot in those 3 years.
I have learned a lot. I've been through, this is my third summer now, and I've seen a lot change, a lot grow in the community. I've seen, honestly, this work become a little bit harder because I think so many families are financially stressed, are dealing with rising costs of things like gas and transportation, grocery bills, all of those things. And so over these 3 years, I think we've seen, some hesitation in registering for camps or becoming part of that because of financial worries. And so what I always tell folks is that there are scholarships available, there are financial arrangements or sliding scales that can be done, and there are many options that can fit into even a smaller budget. So I always encourage folks to check that out, to ask program providers what their financial availability is, and see if there's some things that can happen, because I've seen over the years it just become a little bit tighter and tighter for myself included, for all of us.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's reality. And you spoke earlier about meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
And if parents are trying to decide between filling up their gas tank or putting their child in a summer camp, it's probably a no-brainer. They're going to have to fill up that gas tank.
Right.
How, on blueprint4.com, how do you navigate the financial opportunities and help that are there?
Absolutely. So every program is different, but one thing we do on the site is we have a filter for programs that have scholarships. So if you know that that's something, that your family needs, go ahead and when you're searching on Blueprint 4, check the scholarships available box And then all of the programs that will pop up are ones that have some sort of sliding scale, some process that will really help you. Another added feature is that you can also put in an exact budget. So if you are looking for, say you're looking for free camps, you just want to see there are free options in the community. You want to see what's available. You can put in $0. Say you have, $100 or $200 a week that you can spend. You can put in that as your maximum budget and see what pops up. So, you don't want to be wasting time looking through a program that costs thousands of dollars and is 30 miles away and isn't a good fit for your family. That's really why Blueprint 4 exists, is so that you can help use your limited time to find programs that really are a good fit for your needs and your kids', strengths and desires. So that's why we have those filters on the site, because cost is the number one factor for families. It's the number one barrier to why kids don't participate in camps, and it's really the number one thing that we're trying to work on as a community and as an organization, to try to just level the playing field to make sure that all kids can get these opportunities.
Yes, because the reality is parents still have to work during these very tough times. And if they don't have a village nearby, and it's up to them to figure out what to do with childcare, it is a big deal.
It is, absolutely. And we do see, that village steps up in many ways during the summer. We see a lot of grandparents, aunts, uncles, guardians, older siblings, whoever it may be, who are also in that role and also maybe looking for camps, because it can be, as much as we love our little ones, it can be a little overwhelming having them all day.
Okay. Yes.
So sometimes it's, I'm talking to grandparents or aunts and uncles who are also looking for those enrichment opportunities and looking to support, their family with those. So it's for everyone. It's not just, parents who are taking that on. We really want to try to be inclusive of anyone who has a young person at home and is looking to provide those opportunities.
Something that a lot of families worry about, and we mentioned this in the introduction, is the summer slide, specifically the summer learning slide. How would you define that?
I would define the summer slide as kids having learning loss over the summer. So if they're not actively using their brains and practicing the knowledge that they gain during the school year, not only do they stay stagnant in their learning, but they actually regress. They lose that knowledge. And so data shows that youth can lose up to 40% of their school year learning over the summer months. That is a staggering amount, right? It's a lot, but it makes sense because their little brains are developing so quickly. They can also slide just as quickly backwards. And so this happens in reading and math, most prominently, but across the board. If kids aren't engaged and active and using their brains, they'll regress. And so that's really, why we try to promote so many of these opportunities to prevent that summer slide.
Especially because learning can look different for so many kiddos. I'm going to argue that not a lot of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds really want to sit there and do math problems all day during the summer or read the great American novel, as much as us parents would like for them to do that. So you enroll them in maybe a nature camp, or if they've ever enjoyed cooking, a cooking camp. What types of learning opportunities are there in these settings?
Yeah, I think that's really the beauty of summer, is that some kids may go to summer school or may do that for a portion of the summer. But I think even that, they're trying these days, it's much different than when I was young. They try to make it fun. They try to make it engaging, because we do want kids to have a little bit of a break. We don't want them to be sitting at desks and, forced to kind of endure math class all summer long. But there are so many ways that kids can stay engaged and practice their skills and build their learning during the summer. So you mentioned cooking. That's also something that you can do with your kids at home. If you are able to, maybe bake a cake, bake something, have the recipe written out, and have the kids help you with measurements, have them help read things, have them, look for the ingredients, look for the correct letters. So you're practicing literacy, you're practicing math, maybe fractions, depending on, where they're at developmentally. And you're able to do that in a sneaky, fun way that for the kids is just a great memory that they're building with you. There's also, things like nature camps or sports camps where, again, kids are active, they're doing things outside, but they're also learning about the environment. They're learning about STEM and all of these incredible concepts that may even be a future career for them or a future, academic passion. So no matter what they're doing, there are ways that we can infuse a little bit of reading, a little bit of, social science or STEM, all of these really important things that you want kids just to be thinking about and engaging with, even when they're not in school.
And I'm glad you mentioned the baking. My little boy is 3.5, and for about the last 10 months, he has been very into baking.
I love that.
Well, I don't cook, and I've never baked anything in my life until I had him. And once a weekend, we bake.
That's beautiful.
We did it yesterday, and he is so passionate, as you said, about measuring out the water and looking at the box, and he counts how many eggs that are needed. And it's been really, really special to have that one-on-one time with him and coming up with ways that I do try to sneak in learning.
Absolutely.
And having known Blueprint 4 over the years, I remember so many segments with Matt Chambers and some of your former coworkers who've come on the show, and they've taken one of his 6 kids and come up with all of the interests they have. And they plug it into your website and they say, okay, great, there's a cooking camp within 15 miles of his house, and it's happening the third week of June. And I've always thought, I'm going to probably do that with my little boy now.
Absolutely. Yeah, because there's a lot of puzzle pieces at play that families are trying to combine to create that summer picture. And so being able to say, like, you know what, my kid is really interested in this thing, whether it's cooking, whether it's mountain biking, whether it's animals, whether it's performance arts, drama, coding. I mean, it could be pretty much anything under the sun. There is a camp for that. And it's oftentimes things that kids don't get the chance to explore during the school year, or perhaps that we as parents or educators may not have the expertise to guide them through. I have a young cousin who is so interested in coding and 3D printing and is so talented, but that is not something that I can take on and lead over the summer. That is where we need the experts and these incredible camps that can help provide those supports and structures. So I always encourage, families just to sit down and talk with their kids and say, what do you like to do? What are you interested in when you're not in school? And are there some things that you've been maybe dying to try that you haven't tried before, but you might find out that your kid wants to, learn guitar or wants to, practice their skills in some way that you just, didn't even know about, but can make happen over the summer. And maybe they love it, maybe they don't, but it's something that they're trying and growing and learning from. And I think that that's really the most important thing.
And I'm glad you mentioned the maybe you don't. My parents put me in an archaeology camp one year. And I learned I don't like dirt. I don't like digging in the dirt. But I still look back at that experience, especially with the people I was there with, and it was really unique. And at the end of it, I think we all made these clay pots, and I still have it somewhere.
Wow.
But again, I learned not into the dirt.
That is not the path for you, and that's okay. That's okay. Yes, because otherwise you would have never known.
I probably would have never thought about it. But those cool things that happened even in the moments around the camp too.
Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes it's more about kind of that personal development and you being able to make friends and talk to other kids and say, like, I don't really like this. Do you like this?
And they're like, no, it's hot and I'm sticky and I'm in dirt. And
you're bonding, you're powering through adversity in some cases. I think sometimes it's okay for kids to be uncomfortable and not loving everything because there's a lot of growth that comes from that.
And what a good point, because my generation of parents were really struggling, from what I've heard and read and talked to with my friends, we're really struggling with this time of we're always trying to make sure our kids are comfortable, but not too comfortable, and it's good because there's growth in the uncomfortable. It's a really bizarre time to be a parent because we're inundated with so much information, but allowing our children to learn from other people too, who's not the parent, the grandparent, the step-parent, or the teacher, That's awesome.
It is. Yeah. And it really is. It's overwhelming for families, I think, especially these days. And we all have had that moment where we see something on social media or our friends are doing something and we have that comparison of, oh gosh, I'm not doing that for my kid. Should I be doing that? That kind of panic moment that emerges of feeling like we're not doing good enough. And I always tell families, just you thinking that and having that thought means you are doing good enough. You are worried about your kid. You're thinking about your kid. You're doing the best you can for them. They're going to make the best of the experiences that you provide them. So there is no such thing as a perfect summer where nothing goes awry ever and it's amazing and, nobody's upset ever. So I think that sometimes kids need a little bit of a push to try something new. Again, sometimes maybe they don't like it and next year we'll do something different. But I never want parents to feel, that pressure of, gosh, if I don't maneuver it the exact right way, then they're not going to go to college or something. It's not not to that degree. We want parents to, have the tools, have the options, but just know that, you know your kid, you know your family, and you know what's best for them.
And what a beautiful reminder to all parents who are listening right now, who are thinking, I just made it through May-Cember. I'm barely hanging on. To just be reminded that you are doing a good job. And life can be really hard, especially when you're managing so much. But remember, you are doing awesome.
Definitely. Yes. And I think, again, as you said, let summer camps help, let other people help. I think sometimes we have anxiety too as adults or caregivers of like, oh gosh, sometimes we have a harder time dropping off kids than the kids do. And so for us to kind of check ourselves and say like, okay, I'm gonna let go of this. I'm gonna let them have this experience. I've researched it. I know they're safe. I've talked to the program staff. I've done all that I can do, and now it's my turn to let go and let me be able to work or run errands or rest or do whatever I need to do for myself while my child has this experience. I think sometimes it's letting go on both sides of that spectrum.
We are here with Abby Barrow, who is the Senior Program Manager for the Clark Fox Family Foundation, talking about all the opportunities for summer camps that are still here in St. Louis. Yes, there is still time to register. The website, blueprint4.com. It is really simple to navigate. I've done it many, many times, and I will do it as my kiddos get a bit older. We're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we are going to talk about maybe some things parents can do on the front end before their child walks into the first day of camp to make sure everyone is comfortable with the summer camp that they have picked out. You're watching Live with Laura. We'll be right back. It is the first unofficial day of summer for a lot of families. And I say unofficial because I work with 2 meteorologists. So they will tell you summer, of course, starts in June. But for most people, we think it's the day after Memorial Day, right?
We do. We think this is summer, but I understand technically it is not yet.
We are sitting here with Abby Barrow with the Clark Fox Family Foundation, specifically talking about blueprint4.com, which is a beautiful database that has grown and evolved over the last 11 years, really helping parents and caregivers figure out different opportunities that their child has during the summer. So, Abby, let's say a family is getting ready to send kiddos to camp next week or the week after. What are some things parents can do on the front end to make sure it is a good experience for everyone?
Absolutely. I think there's some acknowledgement that it is scary and new and different. And again, for families, for parents, for kids, for everybody, it's a new experience. And so I think sitting down, talking with your kid as early as possible and helping them understand what is going to happen. So for some families, that might be writing out a schedule, making a visual schedule of what the day is going to look like, sharing with your kid when you're going to drop them off, when you're going to pick them up, what is it going to look like when they're there, who are the staff people, if you've met them already, who might be, working with them, supervising them, what kind of things are they going to be doing at camp. Just making sure that they have a sense of what they're walking into and what to expect, so it feels a little less scary. And that might be maybe doing a dry run through. Maybe you pack up the kids in the car and go visit the camp, go, practice drop off, make sure they know what it's going to look like, what doors they're going to go into, all of those things that maybe can cause anxiety for a new space, just really going through that. And certainly if a kid is going away, having an overnight camp experience, I think that's magnified a little bit, right? Because then we need to think about, what are we packing? What are the rules? When can we communicate? And what does that look like? So just really staying in clear communication with the camp provider themselves, making sure that you're able to convey any, regulations or procedures or things that your kid needs to be mindful of. And also just, letting them know that you are going to be there for them, that they are going to be okay, and that you're really excited for them to have this experience. I think as adults, us checking our own anxiety and putting up a really positive, happy, excited, front, even if we're not totally feeling that 100%, it really does make a difference in just setting a positive tone for our kids. So focusing on the positives, giving that plan, walking them through as much information and logistics as possible, I think those are all good ways to help prepare and plan for camp season.
And you've done that by also including a blog on the blueprint4.com website for parents on how to handle that first day.
Absolutely. So same website, blueprint4.com. We have a news tab. You can check out our blog about getting ready for camp. And we even have some links within that will give you some really tangible, tips and situations, things to say, concrete activities to do, because we know it's again, it's overwhelming. And so we want to try to do as much of the legwork as possible, round up resources and round up ways to support families this summer.
I mentioned my little boy earlier. Definitely for the last 6 months now, every night when we're going to bed, I'll ask, would you like to talk about tomorrow? Yes, Mommy. And I said, okay. Or I say, okay, well, tomorrow is a Wednesday. This is what your Wednesday looks like. And I've just really been shocked as a first-time parent how much kids do want to know. And it makes sense. I don't like being blindsided by something and just all of a sudden show up somewhere and be like, okay, go in, have fun.
Yeah.
None of us would like that.
And I think sometimes we don't think about kids in the same way, that we think about ourselves. We think, well, they're fine. They'll adapt, and they do. But there are ways that we can help set them up and just keep them in the loop, essentially. Communicate with your child and give them some information and some things to look forward to. So whether it is like, hey, Wednesday night, we're going to have pizza night, and let's look forward to that after soccer practice. I mean, even just little things like that can help, kind of ground a kid and keep them, focused on their day.
Let's talk about some of the stories that you have gathered during your time with the Clark Fox Family Foundation about kiddos who have entered a summer camp and then left totally transformed.
Yeah, I can think of many examples. One that kind of comes off the top of my head is a young person who attended a Day Spring Arts program, which is right here in Maryland Heights, an incredible arts and STEM program. And the young person just she had a desire to try performing. Her family had no idea, had never participated in arts before. They were able to get a scholarship to participate in the program, and they found that their kid just blossomed. She took to the stage, she was dancing and singing and doing crew, and had an end of the year performance at the summer. And her family talked about how they got invested, how they learned about performing arts, how they were supporting their teenagers, drive and passions. And isn't that such a wonderful thing to have a teenager who you can connect with and can bond and support and have some positive memories with? So I just think about that experience. It's something that they never had tried before, never knew about, but being able to participate in camp really brought the entire family together around something. And I think that that's just a beautiful way to think about these summer opportunities.
It absolutely is. And with that one specifically, is that a type of camp that you can do for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks? Are there those opportunities?
Absolutely. I think there are a huge array. So if it is, hey, maybe let's just try a week of this. you can absolutely do that. Maybe there's some programs that are a couple weeks longer. There's some that are about, a month long or 6 weeks long. But there's a lot of different options to scale and provide experiences for kids. And, going somewhere every day for, 5 days, it's a lot of content. I know from the program provider side, it takes a long time to plan and prepare and get ready for, because you are cramming in a lot of information and knowledge and content into that week. So a week, if that's what works for your schedule and your budget and, your child's summer, that is amazing. That is definitely not too small of a time to see a change and an impact in them.
What's another success story that sticks out?
Oh my gosh, I think a lot about, our organization works specifically in North County and the city of St. Louis, because we know that sometimes opportunities aren't as prevalent there, that, there's an imbalance between families who have disposable income and those who don't. And as we said, that I think the don't is becoming higher a little bit these days. But I'm thinking about one child who attended a Salvation Army program in North County. And, this mom just spoke about how her child has disabilities and was struggling in school, was just really not connected, was having some behavior issues, and at the root of that was them feeling kind of disconnected and dysregulated. So going to summer camp, they were able to kind of reset. It was a new experience, a new environment, and they really, at the camp, worked with her son on his behavior, his emotions, on regulating, on kind of feeling what we're feeling, processing it, and moving forward in the camp environment. And so when he went to school the next year at the first parent-teacher conferences, his teacher said, "What did you do over the summer? What happened to make your son so different? I mean, we've had such a drastically, different year this year." And so she said, I attribute it to camp, because that's really where he was able to build those skills and get the practice and experience, and that will set him up for the rest of his education. So it really is, these kind of dominoes fall and lead to really powerful things for these young people.
You can definitely see that in the two stories you share. And earlier I mentioned Brandon, who is now in charge of the Boys and Girls Club. And it's just so exciting to think that these experiences have such a big impact. It could also change the trajectory of their adult life too.
Absolutely. I think that's always, powerful to see. And as, summer camp providers, we don't always get to see that, years and years later. But when we do, it's amazing. We see a lot of kids who maybe they go to camp as a kid, maybe they want to come back as a middle schooler or high schooler, as a junior counselor, where they're maybe volunteering, learning how to work, learning some mentorship and leadership of the younger kids. Maybe they then progress into a full-time staff where they're working, during the summer months. And then who knows from there, where their career may take them. But I've worked with so many people who do this work because of the experience that they had as a kid. And they wouldn't be in the careers that they are now and living the lives that they are now if they didn't have those opportunities early on.
And I'm so glad you mentioned, because I was kind of leading you that way to talk about opportunities for work, because even though camps are for 3 to 18-year-olds, I would assume there are a lot of 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds who could come back as a mentor or a counselor at a camp that had a big impact on them.
Absolutely, 100%. We see a lot. There are a lot of teen programs in the community, and I don't want to undersell them at all. There's some incredible programs, things that can help with college prep at some of our local universities. There's a Next Gen Geospatial Institute where kids can get hands-on experience doing that. There's some incredible teen-specific programs, but we know a lot of teens don't necessarily want to go to summer camp. They're big, they're independent, and they want that sense of independence, as well as maybe some money too, which who can begrudge them for that? So I think as parents and caregivers, it's our job to help them connect with those opportunities to be independent, to do things, but also in a safe way. So this year with Blueprint4.com, we added this Summer in St. Louis campaign, and it was really designed to, just make that even easier to find things like that may not be a fit for our database, but are what families are looking for. So we have on our website a listing of teen job and volunteer opportunities, because that was one of the major things that families were asking about, where they said, my kid really wants to work. They really want to do something this summer. Maybe they're 14, 15. They're not quite ready for, a big job or, a real job yet. But they could volunteer at camp. They could be part of something where they know the environment, they know the staff, and they're getting some hands-on experience. I think I see a lot of growth come from those positions as well, because young people are put in a position of leadership and responsibility, and they kind of learn the ropes by, watching the older ones, amongst them, and getting to see those older teens, especially, are the cool kids that we look up to and want to emulate.
Oh, of course.
And, I understand that too. I think that's why a lot of young people find so much success working in summer camps, is because there's kind of that chain of, I look up to you, I look up to you, and being able to see kids, kind of thrive in those environments where parents also, again, know where they are, know what they're doing, but kids get that sense of independence and that they are being counted on and, really valued as not just a little kid anymore.
I'm going to put you on the spot with this question.
Yeah.
Any idea how many summer camp opportunities there are that Blueprint 4 can guide you to?
I do, actually.
Okay.
So last year, we listed over 10,000 different camp sessions that you could register for. And that was at over 400 different programs and organizations. So it's a lot. This year, we have over 9,000 already listed on the site, and we'll be adding a few more this week. So there are, when I say thousands, there are literally thousands of opportunities for you to register for. And, again, what makes Blueprint helpful is that you can narrow those down, because you cannot be going through the whole internet looking through 400 different camp programs in the area. And so we really want you to get the ones that are close to you, that are in your budget, that are good fit for your kids. But just know that there is so much out there. We are so lucky as a St. Louis community that we have so many incredible organizations, many of whom are nonprofits and just care about this work and want to provide these camps for kids. So I think, we can't lose sight of how blessed we are as a region that we have all of these opportunities.
So speaking of region, how far east, how far west, north, south does the Blueprint 4 map encompass?
We go a little ways out, especially for college prep programs that could be across the country. Mostly our focus is, the kind of greater St. Louis region, but we go all the way, through St. Peter's, up, north and west. We go down, South County and Jefferson County. You can find a lot of options on the Metro East as well. So, I think last year Alton and Belleville and Edwardsville were some big hot spots on our map where we could see a lot of programs were occurring because so many families live there and have communities there. And so I think sometimes, you're looking for things that are close by and in your vicinity, but also, again, we're very blessed that most things are a 15-minute drive away, and you can access a lot of different programs across the area.
It has me excited for summer, and hopefully, friends, it has you excited for summer too. Blueprint4.com is the best website to go to. We encourage you to check that out today, tomorrow, sometime this week. Just peruse a little bit. And as Abby mentioned, there are so many options. So make it simpler for you by putting in your address and your zip code, how far away you want to go, and really focus on the costs too and the scholarship opportunities, because Abby mentioned there is still time for that as well.
Absolutely, yes. So don't give up. Always ask about scholarship opportunities and just take those steps to try something out for your kids and family this summer.
It sounds like a good time. Abby, thank you so much for giving us so much of your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Blueprint4.com. One more time, that is the website. Friends, until next time, thank you for listening, thank you for learning, and thank you for being Live with Laura.